Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack over there somewhere. I'm Conrad, and this is the 45, returning once again with a transfer not so stupid. We're going to talk a little bit about Arsenal in this episode and what it would take for them to have a perfect window. Coming off of a somewhat disappointing season, I think if you're an Arsenal supporter, on 14 wins, 14 draws, 10 losses, good for 56 points, and 8th in the Premier League table. They scored 56, which is 7th, 48 conceded, which is 8th. But they did go through to the Europa League by virtue of their win over Chelsea in the FA Cup. They're an interesting project, Arsenal. Arteta seems to have them headed in the right direction. Obviously understands the club. And they have had a great start thus far in the window with getting Willian from Chelsea on a free.
Yeah, they are one of the most exciting teams in the Premier League. They got a lot of young talent. They have a manager who, in his first half of a year at the helm, managed to get some pretty good results with a squad that he hasn't built himself. And he got, obviously, that win over Liverpool in the league. They beat Manchester City and then Chelsea in the FA Cup run. So they came away from the season with a trophy, with Europa League qualification. So a bit of an underwhelming performance in the league. But overall, I think that it was, they have a lot to build on. I think that our focus, at least for them, is if they can lock down that Aubameyang contract extension with Willian coming in as well, as you mentioned, get that defense sorted, and you have a good first full season for Arteta potentially ahead of you.
Yeah, I think their needs are defensive, right? You mentioned they probably need at least one first-choice center back. Talk a little bit about Malang Sarr on a free, potentially 21 years old out of Nice.
Yeah, and he's got all 102 appearances for them over the last 4 seasons in Ligue 1. They're coming off of a season where they ended up finishing 5th in a shortened season. And what he would do is he would be free, which would obviously be very nice for a club that had to fire 55 of their staff members because of a lack of just finances at the club. And he would also help them with a position that they really want to add a lot of depth to. You've got Mustafi, you got David Luiz, Chambers holding. You have William Saliba coming back from on loan, another Frenchman. I think he could do very well. But overall, they want to probably play a 3 at the back. I think Arteta might want to look at that. And to do that, you need to have a lot of depth at the position, and you need to have a lot of talent at the position, which currently they don't have much talent. Even if a few players, I think Sarr would definitely add to the mix with his experience, 21 years old, the free transfer figure. It makes sense. They've been talked about that he might go there, so I think it would be a very promising second free agent that they would sign this summer.
All right, on to our next target for Arsenal, another center back.
Yeah. Gabriel is a guy that is similar to Sarr, that he is coming from France, a team that overperformed, Lille finishing 4th in Ligue 1 in a season that, again, was shortened. But what he will be is £22 million is cheap on this market for a 22-year-old with a lot of experience. And he is wanted by many of Europe's elite. Napoli, Everton, and Manchester United are the clubs that are most firmly in that position. Napoli, it's discussed that if they sell Koulibaly to Manchester City, they're going to look to try and move in for Gabriel. But for Arsenal, I think that if you were to add both Sarr and Gabriel, you could begin to reform your defense for a long term. Because, yes, it's a position that they have several players in, as you mentioned, but David Luiz and Socrates and Mustafi are all kind of not the level you want to have, and they're also a bit older. So if you're able to have Saliba, Gabriel, and Sarr as a back 3, that's when you can really build on. That's a 19-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 22-year-old. That's a young, good core that you can add to some players you already have in your squad. And I think that'd be very exciting for Arteta to build around with that solid defensive base.
And still be able to pair either of these guys with a Luiz or Socrates, who do have a lot of Premier League experience and can be a good mentor. I think Luiz and Socrates are probably smart enough to understand that they're on the downside and they need to be able to be instrumental to help Chelsea become what they want to be and bring some of these young guys up.
Exactly.
Our last target, Partey from Atletico Madrid.
He is a guy who was a bit of a late bloomer in his career. He's 27 years old now, and he's now beginning to make his biggest waves in Europe. And I think that, again, it's a figure that makes sense, £45 million. He's a player that's been on their radar for a long, long time, almost since before this season, before the era of Arteta. And I think he wants a nice, gritty defensive midfielder to help change up the way things are. You look at Torreira, might be looking to go back to Italy, to AC Milan. And you have Guendouzi, who just appears to be on the outside of Arteta's thinking and his plans after that bust-up with Neil Maupay in the Brighton match earlier this season. So I think that signing Partey and having to depart with Guendouzi and Torreira might make a lot of sense. He's got experience not only in La Liga but in Champions League as well. And he's just going to be that gritty defensive midfielder that could help their defensive problems, because we've talked about it before. You got Lacazette, Pepe, Aubameyang, Bukayo Saka, Willian on the free. You got a lot of forward talent. Now if you can add some defensive solidity and a nice, I would say, borderline world-class midfielder in Thomas Partey for a pretty reasonable £45 million figure, those three guys could add you some serious depth, some serious tenacity, and at actually a very good price point, which the price is a big issue for Arsenal right now.
So you have him playing alongside Xhaka then. You have Xhaka still on the side?
Yeah, I think that those two would be the kind of just
double
pivot, the center of your team, that they're just going to be defensively solid, which Arteta has shown that he is able to systematically set up teams that are good defensively. And then if you can add personnel that are even better for it, this Arsenal team could be very different than the ones we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, if they play three at the back with those two guys anchoring the base of the midfield, you can get away with your fullbacks bombing forward and supporting that crazy front four that they've got.
Exactly.
They can throw a lot of attack, and it gives them some steel. It'd be interesting. But well, that'll do it for us for the Arsenal perfect window. For Jack, I am Conrad. This has been the 45. Please like, comment, subscribe, and look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.